Do you need to have a difficult conversation with an employee that you've been trying to figure out, how am I going to tell them the truth? Or are you avoiding telling them the truth because you really don't want to hurt their feelings? In today's video, we're going to talk about how to address poor employee performance without actually giving a bad review. You may be saying to yourself, is that even possible? Stick around and I'll show you how. Hi, I'm Barika from Simply Unique Coaching, and I have been leading for over 15 years, and I have led more than 18 teams, and I've led teams internationally, nationally, non-for-profit, for-profit, and all of the above. And what I like to do is I like to say that I am the leader with the heart of a teacher, and I also like to say I'm the leader who learned in the trenches. And I had to learn things the hard way. So there are some things where I had people that gave me some advice, but sometimes when you have the actual experience, you're like, ooh, I would address that differently. Or maybe I want to go about this a different way. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've learned about addressing poor employee performance. And make sure that you stick around to the end, because in the end, I have a bonus tip that you want to make sure that you also incorporate so that you have the highest chance of success when you are addressing poor employee performance. Also, I'm going to leave you an example of how you can actually put this into practice in the real world, because that's where we really have to deal with it, right? So let's get into it. The most important thing you need to do before you do anything else related to giving employees feedback on their poor performance is you need to make sure you understand the regulations and guidelines of your organization, because you want to ensure that you are in compliance. Please do not put yourself in a situation where you address something and it's not in the right way, and then you actually get in trouble for having to address something for your employees. So don't do that to yourself, right? So make sure that you know what's required. If you have an HR department, if your senior leadership is well-versed in what should happen, then talk to them as well. Make sure that you know what is expected, how to CYB, cover your butt, make sure that you address this. Now, let me say this. My videos are for people who actually want to be good leaders, are good at leadership. So I know sometimes, if you watch different social media things, you'll hear some negative stuff. But I know that there are a lot of leaders out there who actually want to know how to do things the right way. So that's who I'm making videos for. All right, let's continue. So next, what we want to do is we want to ensure that we are clearly focusing on the topic that is at hand. We don't want to go bouncing here and there on every other topic. We want to know exactly which behavior needs to be addressed, and it's best if you have examples, okay? So you need to have specific examples of the employee exhibiting this behavior so that they can tie it back in. You don't want to have it to be something abstract. You need to have something concrete. And I know one of my former bosses used to call me undisputed, because she was like, baby, if Marika wrote them up, she's got some documentation. She has documented it to the tilt. And I was known, and even to this day, I'm very good at documenting, because I believe that there should be evidence of something that has been addressed, and it served me well. I haven't really had any problems, but I just want to make sure that you are addressing the issue that needs to be addressed, and don't go bouncing all over the place. Make sure you have those specific examples that you need to address with the employee. And you also want to make sure that you stay focused on the main topic when you are having that conversation. Don't allow them to pull you in a different direction. Some people have manipulative personality types. Also, there are some people who just may be in denial. Think of it this way. If this employee doesn't get this feedback, is it going to hurt them long term? If it's true that it's going to hurt them, the kindest thing you can do is tell them the truth, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to also ensure that you get the employee's feedback. So you tell them what this situation is, tell them the problem that you are concerned about, and have them provide you with feedback. Find out what their perspective is, because a lot of times you'll find that the employees are like, oh yeah, I know that that's an issue and I'm sorry, and they'll be able to talk about it. And if they're in agreement with you, that's fine. You can move to the next stage. If not, then you may need to have a deeper conversation, because if you're on two different poles of what happened, then you can say, okay, this is what I noticed. In that situation, you're going to do something a little bit different. So we'll talk about it in a second. Now, let's talk about if the employee knows that they need to make a change, then the next thing you need to do is just go ahead and document this conversation that you had in writing. So make sure you have it written out. Like, even I would have that part kind of prepared already. It's like, this is the performance issue that it needs to be addressed. And then you have that conversation with them. If they are in agreement with you, you sign off, they sign off. There should be a space there for them to provide comments if they want to provide comments. And if not, then, you're finished. And then the only thing I would say to make sure that you include in this document is ensure that you include a follow-up date to have a follow-up conversation, so that you can also tell them whether they are succeeding or if they're still needing to have some adjustments in their behaviors, and have that action plan to address whatever needs to take place. So depending on what happens is going to depend on the next steps. Now, let's say you have an employee that is absolutely not in agreement with what you had to say. Okay, that's fine. In that situation, you definitely need to know your organization's guidelines because that's going to dictate what happens next. So, whatever your organization says to do that. Now, for some of you, you may work for small businesses or you may be a small business owner, so you may not know what you need to do next. So, in that case, what I would do is probably document it and document that the employee refused to sign. Okay. And then, if your organization has an HR department, go ahead and consult with them. If there's senior leadership, go ahead and consult with them. If you are a small business owner or if you are working for a small organization, just go ahead and ensure that the appropriate party higher up is aware that the employee refused to sign. The next time you have a conversation like that with that employee, make sure you have your documentation together. We're not picking on employees, right? We're not picking on employees for just doing weird stuff. We're looking at actual issues that are going to either keep the employee from having and experiencing success or the organization having or experiencing success. So that's what we should be addressing. Now, in that case, the next time we have a conversation, if you have to have that same conversation with them again, your leadership should be aware of it. Whoever is in HR should be aware of it before you have the conversation with the employee. And really before you have any type of documented conversation with the employee, somebody that's higher up than you should be aware, depending on your organization's guidelines, right? So now, let's say that same issue came up again and you had to address it with the employee. Now, the appropriate parties who are higher up are aware of it. And in that meeting, you need to have somebody else involved. So either your boss or HR, whomever. If you are a small business owner, at that point, you may want to document, hey, I had to address this with the employee again. So this is like a second warning. And at that point, if the employee refuses to sign, you can decide in that juncture what you want to do next. If you want to give them a final warning or if you want to go ahead and terminate them. Even as a small business owner, I still believe that you should document and keep that stuff on file. Now, also, let me go back. So whatever the conversation is, make sure that the employee gets a copy of the documentation. Also, just be mindful too, because some employees can be spiteful sometimes, especially if you are a good leader and you have a good heart and you're genuinely trying to help the employee become better. If you notice that they become spiteful and they start trying to, kind of pin you in a hole, so all of a sudden they're starting to document to try to make you look bad, just make sure that whoever is appropriate in your organization is aware of it so that, okay, I have the support of my leadership on top of that, or I have the support of HR as well. If the employee has a legitimate concern, then that's one thing. But if they're just trying to, make it look like something that it's not, then you want to be very, very, very careful. And I really am a strong proponent of whenever you're giving feedback, you should always have a second party in the room who is either your level or above, okay? Or HR if you can, just so that there is a witness there. Now, if it's like something small and minor, I still had those feedback sessions. I might pull the person off to the side, but the conversation still took place where we weren't completely out of sight of everyone. They couldn't hear what was happening, but they could see. So if someone's trying to say, oh, well, they got angry with me and this and that, and they huffed and puffed. Okay, the conversation happened where it was visible, not audible, but it was visible. So other people say, well, no, Shantae didn't behave like that way, or Sarah didn't behave that way. I didn't notice her raising her voice at this employee. So then that way you have that kind of that balance. Listen, I'm big on CYB, cover your butt, man. Cover your butt. Because for the most part, I haven't had any issues with that kind of stuff. But there are a couple of people that I'm just like, their story was a total Pinocchio from the actual truth. And so that's why I say cover your butt, right? And especially if you're a good leader, you don't want to have a situation where a really bad employee causes you to get into trouble, especially if you didn't do anything wrong. So now let's talk about the bonus tip for today. So the bonus tip to make sure that you have success in giving them this performance feedback and it being well received is you want to address any type of negative performance as early as possible, because the earlier you address it, the quicker it's going to be that it's going to turn around. The longer you take to address something that you are aware of, the harder it may end up being. It could develop bad habits for the employees. It could communicate that you don't care unintentionally, like you're not aware of what's going on with the team. You don't have a grasp on what's really going on. Let's get into the example and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so for our example of addressing poor employee performance, let's say we have an employee that's overly socializing, like they are fantastic, everyone loves them, but they don't have that balance of knowing how to work and socialize. at the same time, right? So first thing I would do is I like to evaluate my employees and find out what their core personalities are, because there is one core personality that's more prone to this particular type of behavior. So if this is this person's personality type, then what I'm going to do is try to work with them so that they find that balance. And if it's not their core personality type, I'm just going to bring it to their attention, just let them know, hey, this is affecting your performance. Let's say I have Walter. Let's say Walter is overly socializing. He's hanging out, taking longer breaks or whatever, because he wants to hang out with his friends, or when he's supposed to be productive, he's actually talking to his teammates or maybe his family members or something like that. I would say something like, hey, Walter, I just wanted you to know that I was taking a look at your numbers and I noticed that they are not quite where they need to be. I wanted to talk to you about that. Can you tell me what's going on with that? And in that, I already could potentially know that the problem is over socialization, but I'm trying to see if he knows that this is what the problem is. So depending on his response, if he says, oh, I wasn't as focused. If he acknowledges that it's over socialization, then I'm just going to say, hey, I get it. I like to work with people that I enjoy getting along with as well. I don't mind you talking to your coworkers and socializing with them at the appropriate time, but you do not want to allow this to affect your performance, because I have this saying, I was like, then you're going to be on my radar. I don't want you on my radar, because when you're on my radar, then I have to keep an eye on you. And listen, I trust you to be able to do your work. So can you please work on this to make sure that you are up to production? And then we're going to next talk through what the action plan is going to look like. In 2 weeks, we're going to come back together and we're going to meet and we're going to look at where your performance is. And what we want to do is see it increasing. And if it's up to where it needs to be, then great. Just make sure that you keep doing what you're doing to make sure that you're meeting the performance expectations. If it's not where it needs to be, then we'll talk about if there are any additional adjustments that need to take place. And if at that point, maybe I need to sit next to you and monitor kind of what you're doing so I can maybe make some suggestions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I really don't want to have to do that if we don't need to. So go ahead and try to do whatever you can to get your numbers up in an ethical way. Do whatever you can to get your numbers up. Okay. How's that sound? So that's going to be the conversation. And you see, I didn't yell. I didn't fuss. I didn't, I'm having a one-on-one personal conversation with a person. And that makes it way, way, way more palatable. Way, way, way more palatable. Now, let's say Walter does not know that it's his over socialization that is getting in the way. Okay. So, hey, Walter, I noticed that your numbers are not quite where they need to be. Do you know why? And if he's just like, oh no, I'm working as hard as I can and I can't work any harder than I'm already doing. And at this point, depending on what I know about him, if he seems to be a person who lacks self-awareness, I may immediately go to, okay, well then let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and schedule some side-by-sides where I am able to sit next to you and watch kind of what you're doing myself, or maybe someone else who works under me but is above him. Let's get somebody to sit next to you so we can kind of see if there's some ways that we can help you become more proficient at what you're doing. Which people don't like being micromanaged. I don't like micromanaging people, but if he seems to lack this awareness, he may need to be micromanaged. And during that time, because what I'm looking for is the evidence of when somebody's next to him, he's more productive. And make sure whoever's next to him doesn't get pulled into the extra socialization too, right? And so with that, then you have something to compare and you can say, okay, so, over this period of time, we saw that your production went down, but we noticed that when someone was sitting next to you, it seems like you were fine. So I think that, if you keep doing what you're doing, what you did over these last 2 days, last week or whatever, then your production is going to get to where it needs to be. Okay. That's one way to address it. If you want to, you could also address the actual socialization over socialization, just direct out and say, hey, I noticed your production isn't quite where it needs to be, but I'm going to say it seems to be like you're spending a lot of time talking to some of your coworkers. And let me tell you what, they might spend time talking to you, but they're actually meeting their numbers. And I need you to meet your numbers. Like, I want you to meet your numbers. And then I'm going to talk to him about what his long-term goals are. And if his long-term goals are to be at this company, then it's like, okay, I want you to be here long-term. I want to see you be successful. So I want you to work on trying to ensure that you're focused on getting the work done. And then during your break, during lunchtime, go hang out with people after work, to your heart content. But while you're here, I need you to focus because I want you to be successful long-term. So see how I'm addressing the person. And yes, I address the behavior, but I'm also addressing the person. I'm digging deeper. I'm making a connection, letting him know that I want him to win. And I can tell you with the toughest people I've had, and I've had some tough people, that always wins. that always wins. Unless it's a manipulative person. The only time I've had problems really long term were with manipulative people. And I think it was like 3. I can count on my hand out of all the 15 years that I've been leading, like 3. Once I learned how to do this, so it made me successful with that. So with that being said, if you are a newer leader and you're not quite sure all of the different areas that you need to master as a leader, I do have a free new leader checklist. And with it, it just basically has all of the areas that you want to ensure that you focus on. Also, if you sign up for that, that's going to add you to my mailing list. And I send out a weekly leadership email. It has different strategies and tips and advice and sometimes personal stories for me about my leadership journey. And actually, I am getting ready to start a new part of my leadership journey. And so I am considering sharing that with the people on the newsletter list. So I asked them for some feedback to let me know if they are interested in learning about this new part of my leadership journey, which is going to be really, really interesting. All right. With that being said, make sure you check out my leadership playlist if you want to get more tips. Also, check out my shorts if you're like, okay, let me just go through some stuff really quickly and try to get some quick tips. Go ahead and do that. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Also, if you like today's video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That helps the algorithm. That helps me to get seen by more leaders who want to do great things and to be great. And I hope that you have a great day. Take care. Bye.